600 years ago, nearly 600 years ago, 30th May 1431, Saint Joan, or Joan of Arc, or the Maid as she was called, was burnt at stake by the people representing the Church of England and that of Europe, though things were not communicated to the Pope until it was very, very late, on the charges of being a witch and also being a heretic. We all know, we all know the story of Joan of Arc, how she led, mobilized the French people almost single handedly and started that fight against English forces that were occupying a large part of northern France. The context is the Hundred Years' War between England and France. And then it was at her behest that decisive victories for the French side started. These are well known. However, her body was burned three times or thrice in archaic English. First two burnings could not fully burn the body, which was also taken as a sign of fear, a sign that she was a witch, and a third burning was ordered. I am talking about historical facts actually, based on which George Bernard Shaw wrote his play, Saint John. The Bernard Shaw is quite well known for unpopular views. He said once, for instance, that I do not write for entertainment, actually, I write to convert nations to my opinion. And he was a thinker. Initially, he was not much interested in St. John, but in the 1920s, there was a continuous move towards canonizing Saint John. To canonize is to declare one as saint as per the rules of the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church. And Shaw's plays have not been doing well. He thought it was a good chance, to write something on Saint John because it was already in the popular frenzy, a popular imagination of Europe, then leading to her canonization in 1920. And then he took that chance. And the play was very, very successful. This play single handedly, just as Joan of Arc herself almost single handedly started the decisive victory on the French side, for the French side, the play on Saint John, we can say, made Shaw a very successful playwright for the first time. Shaw's plays are called problem plays, as you know, or play of ideas. More than the actions that we have, say, in plays like King Lear, Hamlet, or any other, ideas are more important. And the most important idea that Shaw gives us here is perhaps that Saint John was a man, was a woman actually, though she disguised herself as a man during the wars that she led against the English forces. Saint John was a person born much, much ahead of her time. Of course, it is a generalism. It is true about all great men and women, but it is truer of John because at the end of the play there is an epilogue, which is apparently say around 30 years after John has been burned, but we can say that it is also indicative of Shaw's contemporary times, where John wants to come back to the world and said that no, the world is not ready to receive her. I think we are also not yet ready because, first of all, she was a common person who became a leader not from the royalty and all that in pre-democratic France. And then she was used by Dauphin, who will be the king later, and it is through her help that Dauphin gained courage, manliness, but later he did not intervene much into the process of, well, he was capable of her annihilation. Second, and more importantly, this is most important, Saint Joan rejected the authority of the church, though she was declared saint later by Roman Catholic Church. But then she had said she was guided by voices from above, three saints, indirectly God's voice. Now, church cannot tolerate this. Church is an established religious organization. It will be true of all religions, but since Shaw is talking about Christianity, more or less it is so. Our context is that to see, because if people start hearing God directly, which the Protestants wanted, but they themselves became another institution, so then the role of the church vanishes. You are in direct touch with God. Church cannot tolerate this. But then uh, there have been many who said they had this power but did not de-recognize the church. They were declared saints, co-opted in the canon. But Saint Joan was not like that. He was not she was not at all willing. Sorry for this confusion, because she fought as a man in and again. She was not ready to accept the church at all. So the churches, along with the English army who caught her and finally burnt her, the church authorities' interest was to see her annihilated, declaring her as a witch, though the leading uh, priest of that committee also thought that she was not exactly a witch but a heretic whose soul needed to be saved. And so many things are there. And initially, you know, it was decided that she will be imprisoned, not exactly burned, but then in the prison also she started defying the church and the authorities again and again. Exactly what happened we do not know. Works and research works on St. John still going on. Please look at the comments I have shared a recent finding, and in between which cancels the finding of a recent theorist who in between said that Saint John was never burnt and she lived up to 57 years, and all the things related to her are more myth. But this team of scientists, researchers cancel this. And so, what I'm saying is based on available documents as well as Shaw's play, but I cannot say that it is fully true. But it is understandable. So, and then a cat's unburnt femur has been, this thigh bone has also been found on the relics, remnants of that burning, which testifies to it that she must have been burnt as a witch, because it was a practice to throw cats when witches were burned. Some thousands of women were burnt as witches in medieval Europe, entire Europe. James the First of England even wrote a book, you know, and then conducted this. And it is also said that women who did not follow the norms of society, norms of patriarchy, tried to be on their own, were also burned as witches. In fact, in reality, witches do not exist, we know well. Anyway, so uh, she was burnt finally, because in the prison also she was not cooperating, and there are documents, there are multiple accounts, and one is very sad, very pathetic, that her modesty was violated by the English forces, especially one night, the day before she was burnt. How pathetic this would be. But this tradition continues in many ways. People, when they're imprisoned, the kind of torture that are unleashed on them without any legal validity. So, tortures in prison. Anyway, so this is what is most interesting for me, that is, the church did not only, you know, did not only prosecute her at the behest of the monarchy, that is, English forces and all. It also found Joan to be risky for their own existence because she was claiming she had direct contact with divinity, with God. Secondly, this is yet another point corroborated by both history and show. Though Joan contested church authorities, she did not contest monarchy that much, but contested feudalism. She wanted that there be only one king in a given dominion, given state, and the feudal system, knight, baron, multiple authorities, multiple lords, she was against it. So these people also, actually from both English and French sides, this is the irony, because and then as I have said, in those days, though the war was between the English and the French forces, things were intermingled because major part of France was under English control, and there were turncoats, there were spies, there were enemies within. So these feudal forces also conspired against her, against her. So to bring her demise. So it is the priestly power and, so may we say, the stately power, that is feudal forces. And so in view, in the face of these two joint forces, her supporters could not do anything. And yet another important point is, as Shaw says, miracles, have to continue. Though as rational persons we know miracles cannot be there. Sometimes things happen, coincidence and all. Unfortunately, in Joan's case, during her rise, things acted in her favor. Say, hens start laying eggs, or she is, always victorious in war. But from one particular point when she got wounded, and then people also started, her followers also started doubting her divinity, which had given them strength, that, well, she is also vulnerable, she is also mortal, and she can do miscalculation. And the English forces, which were terribly afraid of her during her ascendancy, from that particular day, they also started, you know, becoming less scared of her. So Shaw indicates, tells us that had her miracles continued, her life would have saved. And miracles for whatever reason, coincidence or whatever, but ascendancy miracles, then things. But finally, what has happened is Saint John has become not only the French symbol of honor, of nationalism. Yes, nationalism is one important thing, though critics and theory persons, I myself a modest one, will say that nationalism is a 19th century discourse and this and that. It is more patriotism and nationalism. Leaving aside the nuances for now, this rise of Joan of Arc, or the Maid, was also an important factor in the growth of French nationalism or patriotism, if you like it. Now, patriotism, priestcraft, and feudalism, there are many issues, and of course gender issues. Woman, barely 19 years old, I think, when she was burnt at stake. So a woman leading huge forces, believing her all men, but then later, losing faith, and then finally at the hands of, twine hands of monarchy, alien monarchy though, and alien priestcraft. This lady, this girl, who was symbol of all that are positive human values, we can say, had to end her life finally, and so cruelly burned, and again burned. And this is Saint John. But this shows points that church does not tolerate, or religious institutions do not tolerate any opponent to them. That is very interesting, and also the feudal thing. But St. John will always remain as a symbol of human freedom, human aspiration, and all this. And in fact, Shaw indicates by all means to show that she was this, not actually a saint or something inspired by divinity. Shaw himself was basically actually an atheist, he said many things. But a human being aspiring from her freedom, her people's freedom. It is another matter that back in those times, she could not couch her thoughts in a secular or liberal democratic idiom, but nonetheless, it is this thing only, the spirit of freedom, which continues, which never succumbs. She was given option to repent, say that whatever she did and say it was wrong, she was not inspired by, she will not compromise, which led to her, uh, you know, indictment first, conviction, and then burning. Even before burning, she was given option to recant. She won't. So we all respect Saint John, and we are also thankful to George Bernard Shaw for making her secularly relevant even for the 21st century. So she is a global symbol of human aspirations, human spirit of freedom, and this indefatigable will to fight. Thank you.